Everybody's been warned. um, oh, great. This is a great turnout. Thanks so much for coming today. My name is Dave Giberson, and this session is going to cover screencasting for your Canvas course. And this is my favorite session of all the ones I do. This is my favorite instructional technology, it's a technique I've been doing since 1993, no, 1992 actually, using a variety of technologies, starting with a super VHS tape recorder, the finest thing you could find at the time, and an old microphone. The technique that we're going to talk about today is called screencasting. It is, and let me go ahead and share my screen so that we can have our outline up there for a moment. It is probably the simplest instructional technology, at least in terms of producing multimedia content for your courses. Let's see, the voice is not synced with the video. Well, that won't be an issue now. There are sometimes lip sync problems if your bandwidth drops a little bit. I think I'm broadcasting okay here today. Okay, that's good.
Looks good.
All righty. And let's see, is that a real lake behind me? I'm just taking, as I said, I'll take these questions as quickly as I can. Yes, that is Lake Pend Oreille. It is a large lake in the panhandle of northern Idaho, one of the largest freshwater lakes in the country, in the lower 48 states. That's not a Great Lake, and it's exceptionally beautiful. All righty, and please let me know if you have any issues hearing or seeing me or the material I'm sharing. So screencasting, what is it? Well, it's a really simple, really simple idea. With screencasting tools, you can record what you see on your computer screen in full motion. So as you make changes to the screen, everything, it's just as if somebody sees your screen in the recording as if they were looking over your shoulder. And you generally, though not always, also record a voiceover at the same time. So all you really need to do, or all you really need to do screencasting is a microphone, which most laptops will have built in, or most webcams will have built in, a computer, and a piece of screencasting, and a screencasting tool of some sort. And those tools are exceptionally easy to use and are, for the most part, free or very inexpensive. So think about it. You can record whatever appears on your computer screen. So any type of information that you can share using your computer screen, say your computer screen attached, or your computer attached to a projector in a classroom. Anything you can share with students live in a classroom that way, you can record using the technique of screencasting. You can put the video with the audio voiceover online in a variety of ways and share it with your students on demand so that they can see it and hear it at a time of their own convenience from anywhere in the world, as long as they have a reasonably decent internet connection. Even the lowest end of broadband connections will work. So it's a very simple technique, a very simple idea, but it's incredibly powerful. You're limited in terms of the types of instructional materials that you can create only by your imagination. And after you've been doing it a while, you can get pretty imaginative. There's no subject matter that can't be presented this way in one way or another. And I'll try to demonstrate that today. So there's no course that couldn't benefit from screencasts. And screencasts are so, as you'll see today, screencasts are so easy and quick to produce that you can produce a prodigious amount of screencast video very quickly, easily, and with minimal effort. Shall we say minimal additional effort over what you'd have to do to prepare a traditional lecture anyway. And we're all quite experienced at doing that and quite good at it from years and looking at this crew, many of us with years and years and years and decades even of practice. So this leverages the skills that you've developed as a lecturer for your entire career and allows you to record them or record presentations ranging in length from a few seconds to hours, though the closer to the lower end of that scale you are, the better generally with a screencast. The shorter the better, as long as it gets the point across. You can capture these things and have them available to your students anytime, anywhere. It's a tremendously powerful instructional concept with a very low bar to entry and a relatively, it's relatively time efficient. Indeed, creating a screencast, I think you'll see here as we move on, is often quicker than typing out lecture notes. It's especially quicker if you're typing out lecture notes for your students and including pictures and screenshots and things like that to illustrate what you're typing about. It's much easier and quicker to do that on your computer screen and record it with a screencasting tool and then put it online for your students than it is to type it into Word and print it out or send it out as an email attachment to your students. It's just much quicker and it's much, much, much more powerful. There's the old saying about a picture being worth 1,000 words. Well, a screencast typically will include 15 to 30 pictures per second. So multiply that out and you get an idea of the power of the technique. Can't remember when I first came up with that one. I've been, as I say, I've been screencasting since 1992 and teaching people how to do it almost that long. So I very much believe in it, and I hope that you will find it as useful as I have. So what are some specific examples of things we might use screencasting for? Well, the most common usage that you'll find, though by no means the most important or the most the one that you're likely to find the most useful, perhaps, are software computer type tutorials. Very, very simple to do that. Most of the Canvas tutorials that we have created were created that way, for instance. To give you an idea of what I'm talking about, let's make a screencast and show you how simple it is. And to do that, we'll need a screencasting tool, a piece of software that will allow us to record our screen and our audio. And there are, given the power and the popularity of the technique these days, there are a lot of those. But I've picked out 3 here in our outline that are free to very inexpensive, and they're really easy to use. And I'm going to start with this one right here, ScreencastOMatic, because it can be at least completely free, and it doesn't even require installing software on your computer. If I hold down, let's see if I can get this to work. There we go. I'm in Google Docs here, as you might tell. And if I just click on that link it gives me an active hyperlink, and I can click on that and I can go to ScreencastOMatic.com. It's a website. It's a web browser-based tool. Works great in Chrome that I'm using here, but it works quite well in Microsoft Edge or Firefox or Safari on the Mac or any of those, or Chrome or Firefox on the Mac as well. So no big deal. The when you get to this screen, starting is exceptionally easy. You can sign up for an account if you want to, but I don't think you really have to. You can just start recording for free. I'll click that button right there. And you can launch the free recorder. You'll download it. I'm gonna just put it on. Yeah, I've done this before. But let's get the current version. There it is, down there on Chrome. I just run the program by double clicking it. There, it lied. It loaded. Okay, so that's all there is to it, to getting ready to record. We get this little recorder control panel. We see here first off that we can, with Screencast-O-Matic, and remember this is completely free, and I haven't had something did download and install on my computer, but it was automatic, so you don't have to worry about it. It's completely safe. It's a very reputable company. I can record screen alone. I can record my webcam. It's having a little trouble because I'm using my webcam for Zoom, and Zoom has it, but I happen to have 2 webcams. Actually, I have potentially 3, but let's go to the second one here. And here's my little document camera webcam, so I can record my webcam. You can even do the green screen effect like you can do with Zoom using this. If you have, if you get the for-pay version of Screencast-O-Matic, which is the appalling price of about $20 a year. So I'm not going to break anybody. I'm going to cancel out of that right now. I really don't want to record my webcam right now, so I'm going to cancel out of it. Oops, I probably shouldn't have done that. Let's get the free recorder up again. Sometimes it can be a little open recorder. There we go. Okay, we're back. Or you can record both, and yourself will be down in the lower right-hand corner here. You get a preview, and that's where your recording will eventually appear. Your webcam recording will eventually appear. This is a matter of taste as much as anything else. Does my little image down there in the lower right-hand corner really add much to most of my screencasts? I've never found that it really does. You know, if I were Brad Pitt or something, maybe, but in my case, no. But that's, some people like it, and it does tend to give you a little bit more personal connection with students. So it's a matter of taste whether you use that or not. But recording the screen is a little bit simpler, if anything. Okay, so that's the default. So you don't even have to make that choice if that's what you want. One limitation of the free version of ScreencastOMatic's recorder is that it will only capture a screencast of up to 15 minutes. And you can see that as a limitation, or you can see it as a good suggestion. Screencasts, the best screencasts are short ones. How long should they be? Well, as short as they can possibly be and get the point that you're trying to make across. And presenting something in a series of smaller screencasts is generally better than one big long one, because it just gets, you know, no matter how good you are at this or how riveting the material you have to present, it's not going to be Grey's Anatomy when you get done. So the shorter you make it, the more likely your students are to watch it. That can be, if you're like capturing a full lecture or something like that, that can be a limitation. And as I mentioned, you can solve that for, I think it's $1.65 a month, paid annually, which comes out to $19.80 or something like that. It's just not a huge expense if you decide you want to make screencasts that are longer than 15 minutes. And I'd like to say I've always followed that advice myself, but I never have. I would find that a limitation. Whoops. I don't know what my alarm went off for there. Okay. You can decide what to record. By default, you'll record your entire computer screen. You can, however, record portions of your screen. I've never been a fan of that. Some people really like it. And it used to be more important in the days when everybody's bandwidth was so limited that it was sometimes difficult to play back a recording that had recorded the entire screen, but that's really not the case anymore. And if you're recording only a portion of your screen, you always have to keep in the back of your mind the idea that maybe something you're talking about is not in the portion of the screen you're recording. I just don't like to worry about that, so I always record the full screen. But that, again, is a matter of personal choice, taste. And ScreencastOMatic does give you the capability to record only a portion of the screen, or only the active window. It's usually pretty safe. Whatever window in Windows or Mac OS you're working in at the time will be recorded, and when you switch to another window, that'll be recorded, and so on. So those are fairly safe. It's probably best just to try that yourself and see what you like to do. You're almost certainly going to be recording a voiceover along with your screen recording. So it's important that you have a microphone that is hooked up properly and is working. And ScreencastOMatic tells you right away if that's the case or not. Because as you start talking, if you see these little green bars running back and forth across the screen, you know that ScreencastOMatic is hearing you. If you don't see that, you may need to select the proper microphone. I've got more than one here. So this is definitely the one. I'm just using the one built into my Zoom webcam. And that will work with more than one application at a time. So it will, you can use it in Zoom and like I'm using it in Zoom, but I can also use it in this at the same time. And you can adjust volumes and things like that. You can decide to record computer audio or not. Computer audio is just the audio played through your computer. So let's say at some point during your recording, you're going to play a video or an audio file, or the computer is going to give some kind of audio feedback, like you know, a chime or something like that. You want to record that as well. You can set that to record, but you do have to sign up for the upgraded recorder, the $20 a year if you want to do that. So probably, if you're going to do a fair bit of screencasting with ScreencastOMatic, it's going to be worth it to you to sign up for the $20 a year. So once you've got these preferences, or you've got these options set the way you want them. Your only remaining problem is, what do you want to record and what do you want to say? Which is, of course, the hard part here. The nuts and bolts of screencasting, the recording and the technical details are really pretty simple. I mean, if you had just wanted the defaults here, all you would have had to do was start the screen recorder and click the record button down here and start moving stuff around on your screen, pulling stuff up on your screen, and talking about it. So it's 2 mouse clicks, one to get into the thing, second to start the recorder. You wait a second, and this little screen panel here pops up, and you click record, the red button, which is a universal record symbol, and bang, you're on your way. Will the audio be available if you embed a YouTube link? Yes. If I play a YouTube video while I'm recording the screen, if I have selected computer audio to be recorded, and I have paid my $20 this year, yes, your students will be able to hear the YouTube video play as well as see it play. There are sometimes some very minor lip sync issues when you do that, depending on the speed and power and the amount of memory you have in your computer. So the recording that we're doing here is done locally on your computer. It's not having to send your live recording across the web to ScreencastOMatic servers or anything like that. The recording is happening in an app, it's happening locally on your computer, but depending on the speed and power of your computer, you might have a little bit of lip sync issue in that case, Anthony, but probably not much. You just have to try it and see. Good questions. Let's see, can we use screencasting for grading and attach under speed grader in Canvas? You bet you ever, yes, you sure can, Ishita. And that's one of the illustrations, one of the applications I'm going to demonstrate here in a little while. It's one of the best parts of screencasting, or best applications of screencasting in an online course, especially. Though this technique is, quite frankly, I could not imagine teaching an online course without making screencasts for everything from how to use your course to course material to student feedback. It's just an essential tool to me. So how do we make it work? Well, pretty darned easily. All we have to do, and obviously you'd want to have your screen set up and ready to go and so on. And the way we're doing this here, I'm going to have to twiddle around a little bit, but to start the recording, I just click the red button. It counts me down, and I'm recording. That's all there is to starting a screencast. Let's say I want to show my students how to do something in Canvas. Well, I just go to Canvas. Let's say I'd like to show them how to log in. Okay. Logging into Canvas at the San Diego Community College District. Simply access our Canvas system at sdccd.instructure.com and enter your 10-digit user ID provided to you by the district. My user ID for Canvas is a little different because I was the first person on the Canvas system here. Then enter your password. Your password will be set initially to your 8-digit birth date, month, day, year. And it must be 8 numbers. if your month or your birth month or birth day is a single digit, put a 0 in front of it. So January 1st, 2000 would be 01012000 for a password. Once you've entered those, simply click the login button or press enter, and you'll be dropped into your Canvas dashboard. You can now access your courses by clicking on the tile, the colored rectangle associated with your course. Good luck with your online course at the San Diego Community College District. Okay, that was a screencast. It might even be useful to someone somewhere. So now, how do I get this online? Well, I've got a little red button down here in the lower left-hand corner where my record button was, and it's got two parallel vertical lines in it. That's the universal symbol for pause in video. So I'm going to pause this. And I can take a breath, gather my thoughts, and hit record again and just continue the same video. You always have that option. And that, trust me, if you're going to be doing a screencast that's more than a couple of minutes long, you'll need that from time to time. So you don't have to do this all in one breath, as it were, in one string of recording. You can stop it, maybe change what's on the screen, get ready to go again, and then there'll be a cut in your video, but there won't be a jump in the video or any kind of interference or anything like that. It will look like you never paused at all. So you can pause and restart as often as you like without chopping up and making your video look choppy or anything. I see that I've recorded for 2 minutes, 20 seconds, and 70 frames, or 70, 7/10 of a second. Probably a lot more information than I need. If I decide at this point that the thing has gone completely off the rails and it's unrecoverable, I can stop and start again, or I can say that I'm done recording. I think that's enough here. So I'll click done. If I have paid my 20 bucks to Screencast-O-Matic, I can actually edit this in a fairly rudimentary but quite functional video editor. Is that going to be necessary? Probably not. No screencast is ever perfect. A very wise man I once knew told me one time that perfect is the enemy of good. Trying to get it perfect will only frustrate you and waste insane amounts of time. Another person I knew who took a course on this from me years and years ago, for whom I have vast respect, but I will not name, went home right after the class and said, he said he went out the door saying, I'm going to make my first screencast tonight. I said, great. So I contacted him the next morning and said, how'd it go? He said, great, I got it. And how long was it? He said, a minute. I said, that's great. The shorter the better. I said, how long did it take you to create that? He said, 24 hours. He said it was perfect.
Wow.
I asked him to consider how many screencasts he could have made during that time that were imperfect, but perfectly useful. And well, we agreed to disagree on that. But it really doesn't have to be perfect. The need to edit is relatively rare. I do a lot of screencasting. I have done literally thousands of screencasts in my career. And I have edited maybe 2 or 3% of them. The rest of them I just put online because they're good enough. Maybe there's some hemming and hawing and moving in digression or moving off in the wrong direction and pulling myself back and going forward. But hey, we don't have an opportunity to edit our live lectures, right? Yet those seem to work. And once you get over yourself and remind yourself that you're not perfect, and if you don't remind yourself of that, your students will probably be more than happy to do that. You know, it just doesn't matter in most cases. If anything, it kind of makes it a little bit more fun for the students to watch. It's like watching NASCAR and waiting for the crashes. You know, the crashes are the really fun part. So it's fun to see your instructor get flustered and go and do their, you know, get all hot and bothered, and then pull it back together and keep moving on. It doesn't really impede the instruction at all, and it just makes you more human. So at this point, I'm just going to say save and upload, because I've made the thing's ready to go. It's useful. So I'll save it. I can preview it to make sure it did record properly. That's probably a good idea. And I'm recording. That's all there is to starting a screencast. Let's say so it sounds fine. It looks fine. I can read it and see it. And so this obviously is a small preview, but yeah, everything looks good. What you don't want to see down here, this is your audio waveform. You don't have to worry much about that, except it does tell you when you're talking and when you're quiet. And you can see whether the recording has gone well or not. This is kind of ideal. You want the peaks, the highest levels of, the higher the peak, the louder it is. You want the highest peaks to be a little short of the top here. You definitely don't want to see the peaks going up and flattening out at the top of the thing and then coming back down again. That's called clipping, and that produces very harsh audio. It can be hard to understand. At the very least, it will be irritating to listen to. And while people will put up with bad video in an instructional screencast, they're really much less likely to put up with bad audio. It's just very hard to put up with. So you want to, generally the screencasting tools will adjust your record volume automatically so that you don't get a lot of clipping, and so that it's not too soft so they have to turn their speakers all the way up to hear you at all. But this is the sort of thing you want to see, where the peaks don't quite reach the top in most cases. But that's rarely a problem. You can even put background music in here. You can add captions, but here they're talking about typing the captions in. We're going to talk about captions here in a minute, because these videos, like any other multimedia that you put on, that you put online and use instructionally in California at the San Diego Community College District, really anywhere now, have to be captioned. They have to be accessible to people with hearing impairment or other types of cognitive impairment that make it difficult for them to process information audibly. And there's a very easy way to ensure that that happens, and that's to take the correct option here under options for saving your recording. You can save it as a video file on your local computer. You can upload it to ScreencastOMatic's servers, or much better, you can upload it to YouTube. The only thing you need to upload to YouTube is a Google account and a YouTube channel. Almost everyone these days has a Google account, because so many of us use Gmail for our personal email. But if you use any Google product, Google Drive, Google Gmail, YouTube, whatever, you've got a Google account. And you just go to YouTube and log in with that Google account, and you can then upload your videos to YouTube. It is completely free. It is unlimited. You can put as much video up there as you wish. The videos, if you verify your Google account. The video can be as long as you like. I'm sure there are practical limits to that, but I've seen 2-hour YouTube videos up there. I don't recommend 2-hour screencasts if you can avoid it, but you can do it. I mean, the limitation is there's no limitation there, no practical limitation. So it is a wonderful service. There is some advertising, of course, on YouTube. And they always seem to manage to pop up a related video that has someone in a thong on the screen. But there are ways you can minimize that sort of thing. Simply embedding the video in Canvas gets rid of most of that. So YouTube is just the ideal hosting service of choice for your instructional screencasts for all of those reasons, and for an even better reason. The best reason for using YouTube is that its automatic captioning is without peer. There's none better that I know of that any individual could afford anyway. Yes, you can send your video to someone and have it captioned professionally for free. You can even do that for free through 3C Media, but then you've got this other level of hassle on top of everything. You have to wait for it to come back and so on. And I never actually heard of them refusing anybody, but if you get to the point where you're creating dozens of screencasts for a single course and things like that, I have to wonder how long their patience is going to last. And all you really have to do is put it up on YouTube. YouTube will caption it automatically, and generally well enough that you can pretty much just use it. You may have to do a little bit of editing to the captions, but not much. I usually don't bother. Indeed, when we're done with this session here, which will be on the order of 2 hours, I'm not going back and editing captions, 2 hours worth of captions. The automatic captions will be good enough if they're done through YouTube. So I'm going to upload this to YouTube for all of those reasons. If you're logged into your Google account already, which I stay logged in all the time, many of you may on your home computers as well, and particularly if you use Gmail. If you're already logged in, this box will pop up and you're ready to go, ready to upload. If not, you'll be prompted to log into your Google account. Then this will pop up, no big deal. It tells you whose account you're using just in case somebody else uses your computer and you're about to put it somewhere you don't want to. You can give it a title. It's best to, recording number 9 is not terribly informative. We'll try to even type it properly. Just press enter. There we are. We can add a description if we want, or we don't have to. We can put tags. Notice it's even pulled a couple of tags from your title here. That's good enough. Privacy. That's an important consideration with YouTube. Some videos you may be perfectly happy to share with the world, in which case you can make it public, which is one of your options. The most commonly used privacy option in YouTube is unlisted, which means that people can't, well, first off, if the video is public, people can search for it on YouTube and find it, and anybody can play it. If the video is unlisted, anybody can play the video, but they have to have the YouTube link, the URL, the so-called share URL from YouTube, which you can provide to them by a link in Canvas or an embed in Canvas or in an email or whatever. But other people can't search for it and find it and use it and play it. If it doesn't contain confidential information and you're okay with people using it, make it public. it's a great resource. People can search for it, and you may be helping people all over the world without even knowing it. A lot of stuff, though, you'll make unlisted and just provide the URL to your students. Private is something you'd use only in very unusual circumstances, where you were maybe having maybe recording something for a single student, and you didn't want any chance that another student would see it. In that event, the student, you have to have the student's email, the email address that they use to log into Google, to YouTube, and YouTube, of course, being a Google service. Google bought YouTube years ago, and you have to have that email so that you can specifically give them access, and then they have to log into Google before they view the video, which is a major hassle. So this is something you don't use very often. As long as you don't share the YouTube share URL with anybody but one person, the chances of anyone else seeing it are exceptionally remote. So unlisted is a good compromise in privacy for YouTube, but make it public if you can, because it is a public service. You can set a category, and it's not critical. It may help people find it a little bit, and the categories are multitudinous. Education is obviously the one that's best for us. And do we want to highlight the cursor as it moves? Sure. Very often in a screencast, you'll use your mouse cursor to point at things that you're talking about. Highlighting it in the playback makes it easier for people to see. It makes it a little bit easier to follow your video. And captions, we're going to let YouTube deal with that. So all I have to do, after all that talking, all I really had to do was go down here and punch the green button labeled Publish. It goes through an upload process. And in a minute, it's going to say, it's on YouTube. So the time lag between starting your screencast and having it available to your students can be less than 10 minutes. It's an exceptionally efficient technique. And you can put an amazing amount of very, very wonderfully useful content online in an exceptionally short period of time. This is one of the few multimedia techniques I know where you can really produce a useful amount of content in an amount of time that you can realistically devote to that sort of thing when you've got all these other demands on your time. So it's an incredibly efficient technique. And with a short video, as you can see, it doesn't take long to upload it at all. It depends a little bit on the speed of your internet connection, but there's generally not a long wait. And if you're using this, somebody asked about providing feedback to students through screencasting. You can do that realistically, quickly, enough that you can go through a class of 20 or 30 students in a reasonable amount of time and provide feedback to all of them. Just to see that this did work, we should be able to open the upload. Will bring us right to YouTube. And here's this video online. And I'm recording. That's all there is to starting a screencast. Let's say I want to show my students how to do something in Canvas. Well, I just go to Canvas. Okay, it's not captioned yet. That usually takes a few minutes, but it will be very shortly. It's a high definition video by default, so it's very easy to view, very easy to see. And I'm done with that one. I can move on to the next one. I can make another screencast and another one and another one. You can make a dozen in a day easily and really provide your students a useful amount of content. All right, let's see over here. Let me check the chat tool. I haven't been back there in a minute. Let's see, grading attached. Yes, we did that. Let's see if I have a video from a publisher. Would I play it on my computer to share it with students in Canvas, or is there another way? Well, that's certainly one way to do it. You can play the video and record the screen as you're playing the video, being sure to record the computer audio, the audio playing through the computer speakers, and and generally the result is quite acceptable. Let's say, don't know which joke that was. All right, I was unable to record while recording Zoom at the same time. Yes, if you're gonna, from Eric, you weren't able to record on Zoom and ScreencastOMatic using the webcam at the same time. The video of the webcam can only be used by one application at a time. The audio, if you have a microphone built into your webcam, can be shared with different applications at the same time, as I'm doing right this minute. But the video can't. So there's a couple of options there. One thing you can do is just not record your webcam and just record the screen, and that works fine. Or you can have a second webcam, as I have here. Zoom will make use of multiple webcams, and so, you can choose between multiple webcams that are hooked up, and the same is true with ScreencastOMatic and most other screencasting tools as well. Does the video recording need to be captioned? Oh yeah, I think I already answered that one. You betcha. Can't put video online and use it for instructional purposes unless it's captioned. And that doesn't matter whether you've got deaf students in your class or not. That is the board policy, and that's the law, as a matter of fact. What are the advantages and disadvantages of ScreencastOMatic over Camtasia? I'm going to talk about that as we go along.
Oh, I have the same thing.
Pardon? Okay. Auto captions available to anyone who chooses caption. Yes. Let's see if if it's captioned yet. No, I'm recording. That's all there is to starting a screencast. Autoplay is a little aggravating. You can turn that off. But usually the captions are there within a relatively short period of time. I still have a Camtasia account. Is it compatible with ScreencastOMatic? If you're talking about Camtasia, our Camtasia Relay service that we used to offer, unfortunately, that is no longer available at the district. The company who provided that, TechSmith, sent that product to end of life. It killed it off. It's still available as a hosted product with an online, something kind of like ScreencastOMatic, only much more powerful. But it is so expensive that we haven't been able to afford it. And quite frankly, it's not, with the availability of things like ScreencastOMatic, we don't need it, and YouTube, we don't really need it that much. But you can, however, use, we're going to look at some other screencasting tools here as we move along, and I'll address that a little bit more there. How to insert intros and, oops, sorry. Sorry about that, forgot to turn the phone down. That is kind of an intermediate screencasting thing. If we have time, we'll look at that. when I talk about the last screencasting tool we're going to deal with today. But Lee, I'd be happy to meet with you individually on Zoom and show you how to do that. It's not difficult. How do I record things I can't see? You can't. In order to record something with the screencasting tool, it has to be visible on the screen. How do you add screencast in Canvas? Well, you simply take these videos and embed them in a Canvas page. And we did just do that the other day. I do have a recording of that session of how to embed video in your Canvas course, but we'll talk about that here today again. And will I be offering a Camtasia class? I'm not scheduled for one this semester, but that is definitely something we would consider. Camtasia, I'm going to talk about Camtasia just a little bit today, which is the Cadillac of screencasting apps. But it is relatively expensive, about $160 for a license. So we don't tend to emphasize it in these introductory screencasting sessions. But I will do my best to get to that. Okay, took care of those chat questions. That was a good place to break. That's pretty much, well, that's enough certainly for you to use ScreencastOMatic effectively, repeatedly, and with great impact for your students. So, and that's a classic example of one of the very common uses of screencasting, which is computer or software tutorials. So let me get this out of the way. We're done with that. And go back to our outline here and see where we are. Well, that's A here, taken care of. And we've seen how to use ScreencastOMatic, so we're making progress here. Another very common use of screencasting is the recording of PowerPoint narrations. We've all posted PowerPoint slides for our students online, and they're useful up to a point to just have the slides. But let's face it, the vast majority of the information provided during a PowerPoint presentation is not on the slides. The slides are more just talking points and illustrations. It's more so we don't forget what we want to say than anything else. The vast majority of the information in a PowerPoint presentation is in the narration. And screencasting is an ideal tool for recording both the slides and the narration at the same time. And you can do it separately if you want, but it's easier for me just to do it all at the same time. And then when you're done with the recording, it's as though the student were sitting in class when you gave the presentation live. They can see it and hear it probably better than they can see it live in the classroom. And they can play it anytime they want to, as many times as they want to. They can stop it, restart it, go back, watch something again. It's a tremendous resource for them. And it's so much more useful than just posting the PowerPoint slides. And presumably, if you make or use a PowerPoint presentation provided by your publisher, at some point you're going to have to give it live in a lecture, right? So why not just do that once? I had a colleague come to me one time on a day when he was particularly depressed and say, I've just computed how many more times I'm going to have to give this lecture before I die. It was not a good day. In the case with the screencasting tool, the answer to that question can be one. And refer your students to go, click, listen, come back, we'll talk about it. Or better yet, listen to it, watch it and listen to it before you come to class. And with reporting tools and the LMS and things like that, I'll know whether you did it or not. And then we'll actually use our classroom time for something useful, like talking about it and really expanding on it, rather than just me standing up here like a VCR, riffing a lecture that I've done a million times already, and then I'm going to have to do a million times before I die. Sounds pretty good to me. So how you do that couldn't be much simpler. Let me pull up a PowerPoint. First off, let me pull up ScreencastOMatic again. We'll use it again. I've got another tool I want to show you here in a minute, but I'll use that on something else. So we just launch the recorder again. That's my only objection to ScreencastOMatic. In order to get it going, it takes a little bit of time and a little bit of effort. Not much, really. I'm being pretty picky here. But if you're doing something like providing student feedback and you got 30 students and you're pulling out paper after paper after paper, you really don't want to have to spend much time waiting on the application to start and get ready. And there's another tool I'm going to show you in a minute that's even better at that. And it costs about the same amount. Realistically, providing you pay the $20 a year for a ScreencastOMatic upgrade. But here we are. Let me bring up what amounts to a PowerPoint presentation. Whoops, that's not it. There we go. This is actually a presentation on Google Docs, but same thing would be true if you're using, you do it the same way if you're using PowerPoint. So I've got my first slide up here. Take a deep breath. And I hit record. Five tips for listening well. Listening is one of the most important skills you can have, and to do it well is critical to your education. Above all, be prepared before you go in to listen. Be physically prepared, be comfortable, have everything you need out, and be composed, calm, and ready to appreciate things. And so be mentally and physically ready to absorb information. Prepare in advance. If there are supplemental readings or there's information about the topic online, look at it a little bit, at least have some of the terms down, things like that. It's not good to show up and to not be ready and to find yourself lost after 5 minutes and zoned out. And God knows we've all had that experience in PowerPoint presentations. There's even a term for it, death by PowerPoint. It's hard to listen when you're running your mouth, so being quiet is a good idea. And if you do speak during, give comments or feedback during a presentation, you're much more likely to be listened to and much more likely to contribute if you don't do it every second, if you just do it occasionally. And I don't know what a good aura is, sorry. Pay attention. That seems obvious, but we all find our minds wandering during a PowerPoint presentation. Oh, I know this. Oh, get on to the next point. Come on. God, there's 9 bullet points on that screen. Get through it already. No, that's not helpful. And try not to be defensive. Like, gosh, I don't believe that, or I know more about this than that guy does. So it's counterproductive to actually getting something out of the presentation. And you certainly don't have to be a genius to use either PowerPoint or screencasting, as is entirely illustrated here by our author. Okay. I just paused it. Okay, That's all there is. You just go through the presentation like you would in class. Be as animated as you can. If it's the 500th time you've done it, I know it's a challenge, but it's worth it. But that's all there is to capturing a PowerPoint presentation. You just pull up the Screencast-O-Matic recorder or the recorder in another screencasting tool and go through the presentation once. And conceivably, that could be the last time you ever have to do it. Then we're going to say we're done. Save upload. This is how fast this is once we're ready. The recording looks good. We'll just check it. 5 tips for listening well. Yeah, sounds fine. Upload to YouTube. No descriptions. Don't need those tags. Listening, probably not. My mother told me to take typing. I took band instead. Oh, no, let's make this one unlisted. This is not going to be of great use to a great number of people. And publish. Up it goes. Relatively painless. And really quite so much more useful to your students than publishing your just throwing the PowerPoint slides out there. I know some of you, Anthony, for instance, has done many hours of this, and his students have been benefiting from it for years. And that's all there is to it. And it's on YouTube, trust me. We're done. And of course, now they're going to try to sell you the $20 a month one, or the Premiere one, where you get some stock photos and music and things like that. It's up to you. But you can get by pretty well with the free service, and maybe the $20 a month, so you don't, or $20 a year, so you're not limited to 15 minutes. No, there are not too many PowerPoint presentations that only run 50 minutes, though God, wouldn't it be wonderful if they were limited to 15 minutes. Okay. Okay, let's see. Remember, jump in if you got questions. I know this is simple stuff. It's really kind of fun, but got to be more questions. And we'll get to move on as quickly as possible so we can do some of the other neat stuff that people have brought up here. Okay, back to the outline here. PowerPoint narration. Lecture capture is another thing you can do with Screencast. And by the way, these applications here are by no means the only things you can do with screencasting. They're just some of the more common uses. Again, you're limited only by your imagination. Anything that comes up on the computer screen can be recorded. I'm sure you can come up with something new that you can do that I have never thought of. But lecture capture is a good one. This can either be a capture of a live lecture in a classroom where you've got people sitting in front of you and you're recording at the same time, so you can put it up online and other students can view it later, or somebody who missed class or whatever. I will address one of the more common questions about lecture capture right now. Well, if I record my lecture, well, does that mean my students will never come to class? It does seem intuitively like that might be a problem, but in fact, studies have been made of that, and the general consensus is that whether you record your lectures or not doesn't really have much to do with your in-person lecture attendance. The students who are going to come anyway, whether you record the lecture or not. The students who are going to diss it are going to skip anyway. So you're not likely to suppress attendance at a live lecture by making your recordings available later, but you are likely to help those who missed something in class or didn't take good notes or had to be absent for some reason. So it's really pretty much a net positive to capture your lectures. And as we've seen here with screencasting tools, it's very easy to capture anything that comes up on your computer screen.
So how's the plumbing working over there? Okay, so nothing's backing up or anything like that?
Just a second.
Sounds good. Okay. Okay.
It's really, sorry about that, just getting that background conversation out there. Anything that you throw up on the screen using a projector or anything that you say during the presentation is quite easy to capture. And if you use your webcam, if you hold up an object or something like that and talk about it, you can use your webcam to capture that. But there's one thing we haven't talked about a way to capture yet. What's missing that you would use in the classroom? Anybody? The thing hanging on the wall.
The screen?
The whiteboard. How about that? Most of us at some point get up and get out the markers and use the whiteboard. Well, with a screencasting application that will also allow you to use a webcam, which most of them will, you could just point your webcam at the board. But even if you have a very good webcam, the chances are that what you write on a whiteboard is not going to be that visible in the final recording. It doesn't pick up that well. And also, of course, there's a possibility, depending on where the webcam is and the angle, you may occlude some of what, you may be standing in front of something that you are writing and not know it. So it's not really that effective to capture the whiteboard unless you have somebody who's helping you in the lecture, since one of any of us had that. But if you had somebody there with a camera that could be trained and zoomed in and out and so on, then it's possible to capture the whiteboard reasonably well. But that's another person you have to have help you. And there's a limit probably to how many times you can do that. It's just not ideal. So is there an alternative that you can do to capture whiteboard type interactions in a lecture that, in addition to all the other things that you might do, that is easy to do, doesn't require someone else, and isn't terribly expensive? And the answer is yes, there certainly is. It can be, you can use what's called a USB document camera, one that feeds into your computer and will throw the image seen by the document camera up onto your computer screen. There are lots of those available these days. The company I like, that I've used for years, is called IPEVO. Let's see. I just want products. See all products. There we go. This one is your entry model. There used to be an even cheaper one. That one, as you can see, is listed at $100. You can get it on Amazon for less than that. I'm not sure what it is today. Used to be used to be a simpler model even that was available. As a matter of fact, the one I'm using today, that was even simpler, or even cheaper rather. You can sometimes get for around $60. But still, it's not an impossible investment. If you're going to do lecture capture in a big way, it's well worth it, particularly since you're not having to pay for the lecture, pay much anyway for the lecture capture software. So anything that this camera sees can be displayed using an application that comes with the camera. So let me get that set up here on mine. I'm still using the old one. It works fine. Let's see, I think I have that up here somewhere. There it is. Okay. Let me focus that. Well, that's interesting. I seem to have crashed the application. A lot of things running at one time here. Let me bring that back up. That's more like it. And I can rotate it so that so that you can see what I'm doing right side up. Come on. There we go. Still a little cattywampus. Well, that's good enough. And I can zoom in and out as needed, and all sorts of stuff. I can adjust exposure as needed. That looks a little better. Okay, it'll remember most of that. Now, the high-tech adjunct to this, of course, is a sheet of paper, a legal pad, whatever. And the little camera can adjust. It's got a little gooseneck that you can adjust it. And now anything that you want to write and share with your students or draw, whatever, is available. And since it comes up on your screen, you can record it. So this time, instead of using Screencast-O-Matic again, I'm use another screencasting tool that I happen to like. Indeed, this is the screencasting tool I use more than any other, at least for recording. And it is called Snagit. Well, write that out. I apologize for my handwriting. It never was much, and I'm recovering from carpal tunnel surgery so on my right hand. So it is not good, but there, Snagit. Started off life as a screenshot application where you could take a still image of your screen and embed it in a Word document or share it online or whatever. But for the last 5 years or so, Snagit has also had video or screencasting capability built into it, both video and audio. So Snagit rather has a lot of the same capabilities as Screencast-O-Matic. It is not a free application, but you can buy it for $30 as an educator. Let me get that scrolling banner out of the way here. There we go. That's distracting. You can buy it from the company that makes it, TechSmith. And if you go to their education store, all you have to have is an EDU email address in order to validate that you're an educator. And they will sell it to you for 30 bucks. It's 50, the retail price is 50, which is not too bad in itself. But 30 bucks, and that's a one-time cost. You can keep that and use it indefinitely. I've got versions of Snagit going back 6 or 7 years that still work fine. And I've upgraded simply because it's cheap to do so. Every year or two, they come out with a new major version. If you buy it, you get incremental updates for free, and it'll notify you when they're available. But if you want a major upgrade, it's usually 15 bucks for educators. I just upgraded a new one came out quite recently. I just upgraded this morning. Very simple to do online, but it's 30 bucks forever instead of 20 bucks a year. or another 15 if you want the latest and greatest, though usually the new bells and whistles are far from essential. All right, so I have this window here on my screen that I'd like to record. And I'm not sure if you can really see this or not in my screen, in my Zoom screen share, but no, I think there's only one G in Snagit. Let me see. Good question. Just one. Yes, I know there should be two, but I guess grammar is, or language is not their strong point. Let's see, but you may be able to see this little blue line right at the top of my shared screen. That's Snagit running. And Snagit runs in the background all the time, or unless you tell it not to, it runs in the background all the time. So it's always instantly available. And that's the thing I most like about it. There's no startup delay. It's always there, it's always running, it's always available. So if you're doing a lot of screencasts in a short period of time, it's great for that. And all I have to do to start Snagit is to move my mouse cursor up and touch that little blue line, which you may or may not have been able to see, but now you should be able to see this little drop down. And it's basically just a big record button. So I'm ready to go. I just click record. With Snagit, it's very easy to pick out the part of the screen you want to record. If you only, in this case, I only want this window with the legal pad in it. So I can just go to the upper left-hand corner of it, click with the left mouse button, drag down to the right and let up. And that's telling Snagit to record just this portion of the screen. Or you may have noted an option there to just record the entire screen as well, which is fine. And the amazing thing about Zoom is I can do this while I'm showing this to you on Zoom. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Okay, now I have the option here to take a screenshot, a still image, or to record a video. I want to record a video. Boom. This initializing does not normally take this long. Usually it comes right up. But because I'm using my webcam in my primary webcam in Zoom, it's trying to initialize it and it can't. So it tells me that, and I'm just going to continue, and bing, there it is. Normally that won't happen unless you're in the middle of a Zoom session while you're making a screencast, which is, to say the least, unusual. All right, I'm ready to go. Like ScreencastOMatic, it shows me if it's hearing me. Excuse me. And I can choose to record system audio or computer audio, which is what comes through the speakers, or not. I can just turn that on and off by clicking on it. If it's green, it's going to record. I can record my webcam as well. I'm not going to bother to, particularly since I'm using one webcam for the lecture capture and the other, or screen whiteboard capture, and the other for Zoom. So I really don't have one left over to apply to this. I could have three if I wanted, but no need. And to start the recording, I just press the record button. Boom. Counts me down. And now I'm recording my whiteboard equivalent with Snagit. If I'm going to give a lecture, I can just go over here to my legal pad. And let's say by training, I'm an organic chemist. So let's say I was teaching organic chemistry and I wanted to show students how to make paranitrobenzene. from benzene. Well, benzene, C6H6, is one of the more common aromatic organic compounds. There's its chemical structure, if I could draw. And the compound I want, ultimately, is, I know this is gripping, para-nitrobenzene, common organic compound. So how do I get from here to here with known reactions, and how can I do that practically? Well, obviously I'm going to have to put one of either this methyl group, CH3, or this nitro group, NO2, onto the ring first. It so happens that if I put the nitro group on first, I can't put the methyl group on because of screen deactivation or ring deactivation issues. So first thing I've got to do, sorry folks, I'm not available. I hope that's not an emergency. Okay, first thing I've got to do is put this methyl group on. That involves something called a Friedel-Crafts alkylation. I take methyl chloride, commonly available reagent, and aluminum chloride, common Lewis acid, and I can convert benzene into methylbenzene or toluene. Then I can take the toluene, which I isolate, and expose it to a mixture of sulfuric and nitric acids and heat, and add the nitro group on, and I can get para-nitrotoluene, something you always wanted to know how to do. I can pause the recording at any time. I think that's enough. I can stop it. If I can press the mouse button with my ailing finger. When I do that, the video is automatically sent to the so-called Snagit editor. I can do relatively little with editing video in Snagit. Basically, I can trim the video. That is, very often there's a little bit of stuff at the beginning and the end of the video that I don't want. So I can preview the video. And now I'm recording my whiteboard equivalent with Snagit. Okay, probably I don't need that in my final recording. I've got the little progress cursor here. I can grab this little green ear on the end of that and drag it out here and cut that. That doesn't actually physically destroy that. It's still in the recording, but it means Snagit will not use it when it's sending it out. And there's a similar capability in Screencast-O-Matic. I'm going to give a lecture. I can just go over here to and I can go to the end, and I can trim that too, to a mixture of a para-nitrotoluene, something you always wanted to know how to do. So maybe I could leave that last crack out. And heat, and add the nitro group on, and I can get para-nitrotoluene, something you missed. So I can drag this out and I can cut it as well. So now I've got a trimmed video. That's about all the editing I can really do with a video in Snagit. It's not much of a video editor. There's another tool for that I'll show you in a moment. But to share it, to put it online, is even quicker than Screencast-O-Matic. I just click the share button, and I have all this vast set of options. I can use Google Drive to save and serve this video, which is free, just like YouTube. I can put it on Twitter. I don't think so. I can put it on my Dropbox account if I like, or more likely, almost certainly I'm going to send it to YouTube. I just click YouTube. It's going to save the capture so that it's ready to go. What do you mean I'm not signed in? I certainly am. Okay, fine. Choose an account. That's me. Allow. It'll do this the first time. It allows Google to verify that it's really you and that you want to share this video. So now I just have to give it a title. I do have to enter a description, aggravatingly enough here. I might even spell whiteboard, right? I have to add a tag. Set a category, education, that's not critical. And I definitely don't want that out there for anyone to see. I'm going to make it unlisted. And when I'm done, I want the URL copied to my clipboard, upload. And that's all there is to it. Close this tab to return to Snagit. All right. In a minute, it's going to, let me bring the Snagit editor up here. There it is. He said. And you can see the progress of the upload here in the Snagit editor, and boom. And I can click here to view the video, or I can just get the link. And I know, an advertisement for Snagit there. I don't need that. To bring this video up, all I have to do is paste that link in, press enter. There it is. It's already up there. To give a lecture, I can just go over here to my legal pad, and let's say by training, I'm an organic chemist. So let's say I was teaching reactions and how. So just that fast, it's online. And Snagit is even more efficient than Screencast-O-Matic in that regard. And realistically, it's of comparable cost because again, it's $30 one time, and you can use it forever. Never have to re-up this a subscription or anything like that. So both good. Yeah, and it's a very smooth, very simple interface. There are some bells and whistles to it we don't have time to talk about right now, but that's not critical. Just, you see, it's just really, really simple to use. And where Snagit really shines is in providing student feedback because it's so efficient. And that's the last technique we're going to talk about here. Let's just go to, let's see, somewhere here. I've got Canvas up. There we go. Here's Canvas. Let me just go into a class here where I have some submissions. Go to grades. And let's see, let me get this thing out of the way here. Let's see. Oh, it's the wrong. Sorry, it's the wrong course. Let me find. Believe it was this one. No. Sorry about this. Bet it was this one. This ain't it. We're gonna punt. This is it. All right, here's an assignment that's been turned in Canvas. I've already graded it, but I can always go back in and grade it again, provide more feedback. I can go to the speed grader. Somebody asked earlier, can you use this with the speed grader in Canvas? Oh boy, you sure can. I'll go to the speed grader. Here's the assignment that was turned in. Not much of an assignment. But can I use a screencast to provide feedback? You bet you sure can. I can just now pull up Snagit. I'll just do full screen this time so I get everything. I'll initialize. Did a little faster that time. It's putting these things up. I have 3 monitors on this computer. It's putting them on another monitor. Normally it would just pop right up in front of you. All right, everything looks good. I can start recording. Just bang, bang, bang. I'm ready to go. It's already running. And now, I probably want that out of the way. I can read this. I can, this happened to be an assignment from an old screencasting online flex course that I used to have. Let's see, Jing was very easy to tool. Well, Jing's not really, you can still use Jing. It used to be the free version of Snagit. Before Snagit could do video, Jing was there. You can still use it. It's a very limited tool. You can't make screencasts more than 5 minutes and things like that, but it's still a useful tool. But that's not why I would certainly replace it with Snagit these days. And I can make all sorts of comments about this. I can highlight sections. Camtasia, yes, you're correct that Camtasia is the most powerful tool. That's what we're going to look at next, just briefly. But you can go through a student's submission. You can highlight parts of it. You can talk about it. You can give feedback, just as if you and the student were sitting together in your office. And when you're done, you can just stop the recording. There's your Snagit editor. And you can preview the recording. You're running. And now, it recorded fine. You can share it to YouTube just like we did before. You can make these exceptionally brief, since only one student is going to see this. You do have to put those in, which is a little irritating. Let's make it unlisted and bang, upload it. It's uploading. Wham, I'm ready to go. I can start another one. I don't have to wait for that to upload. I can start another one, and because it's uploading from the editor, not the recorder. So I can, just that fast, now I can go on to the next student and the next and the next and the next, and I can realistically do 20 or 30 students' papers within less time than it would take me to mark them up on the paper by hand and hand it back to them. And it's much more informative, it's much more personalized, it's much more effective, especially in an online course where you probably would never see the student. You can give them the same quality of feedback or better than you would give a student in a traditional face-to-face class. Marvelous application of screencasting. And Snagit is by far the best tool for that because it's efficient interface. But ScreencastOMatic works fine too. All right, let's go back to our outline and see how we're doing here. We got 12 minutes left. Okay, there are two other screencasting tools I'm going to mention briefly that I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on because they would require a session in and of themselves. One is Zoom. What have we been doing here? This whole time I've been recording this session. And I'm not only recording my voice and when I was up on the screen, then you could see me full screen, I was recording that, but I'm also recording the screens that I share in pretty decent quality. And at the end of this process, I'm going to take the recording, the Zoom recording, and upload it to YouTube in a process that's almost as simple as anything I've shown you up to now. And I'll have a screencast basically up there for you. It's 2 hours long and it's captioned within an hour or two and captioned pretty decently. So hearing impaired students would be able to take advantage of it. At this point, some people sometimes ask, well, why would I ever use anything but Zoom? And the answer is, well, you don't have to. Zoom is available to you for free. You can get it from conferzoom.org. Of course, you have to spell it right. You can sign up right there. All you need is an email address, an EDU email address from a California community college. It's provided through CCC Confer, the state video conferencing organ, and it's free. And it's basically the same account. In fact, I'm using a Confer Zoom account right now. With the Confer Zoom account, you can have up to 300 people in a live session, or you can have no people in the live session with you. You can just kick off a Zoom session with just you in it and record it. And suddenly Zoom has become a video recording and screencasting tool. That's all there is to it. We will have a dedicated session for how to use Zoom in your classes, but this is certainly one of the best applications for Zoom in online or face-to-face education. Because once you put that recording up on YouTube, your students can access it at any time, as often as they like, and in any way that they like. And they can access it on, since you're using, if you use YouTube, they can access it just as easily on their smartphone as they can on their computer or their tablet. All of those are good and accessibly in every case. So Zoom is a marvelous screencasting tool. If it has a disadvantage, maybe the video screens are not captured with quite the quality that they are in, say, ScreencastOMatic or Snagit, which are dedicated screencasting applications. But it's perfectly good enough in the vast majority of circumstances. And I do know people who do a lot of screencasting who don't use anything but Zoom. All right. And finally, if you really get bitten by the bug and you want to make not only good screencasts, but spectacular screencasts, and I'm not saying that this is necessary to make good use of screencasting. It's not. But if you really like the technique and you really want to make the absolute most of your screencasts, you can buy an application called Camtasia. This was it's been around since the late 90s. It was one of the first screencasting applications to come along. It's still here, and it is by far the most powerful screencasting application there is. I'll just show you briefly what it looks like. Let's see, there it is. Oh, that's a bad link, sorry. I meant to fix that. That should do it. Bad link in the start menu. Whole thing. Camtasia is not just a screencasting product, though that was its origin. And it's certainly got a good screencasting recorder, and it's very similar to Snagit. They're made by the same company, TechSmith. You can certainly record screencasts well with Camtasia, and there are a few bells and whistles. No, I don't want to do that right now. There are a few bells and whistles in the Camtasia recorder that are not in the Snagit recorder, but I will tell you that I almost always, when I'm doing my screencast recording, I almost always use Snagit, which is basically just the recorder from Camtasia with a couple of features removed. Same quality of recording, which is very high. There's all I have to do to run the Camtasia recorder is click this record button in the upper left here. But there's a lot more to Camtasia than just the recorder. Once you record something in Camtasia, it will be dropped into the Camtasia, you can drop it, or it will be dropped into the Camtasia editor, which is a full-featured video editor. You can edit any kind of video with the editor in Camtasia, not just screencasts that you create with Camtasia. You can, if you record your screencasts in Snagit, you can drop them when you share, one of your share options is to drop it right into the Camtasia editor and edit it. And add features to it, add effects to it. Zoom effects, fade effects, things, all sorts of effects that I don't have time to go into right now, but trust me, you can produce something that looks professional with, and by professional, I mean like video industry professional with Camtasia. It's that good. The software is not free, and it's a lot more expensive than anything else we've talked about to this point, but it's not bad. It's for an educational license, it's single license is $160, and that's good forever. It's a one-time charge. They also upgrade Camtasia from time to time, and the upgrades are usually about 80 or 90 bucks if you want the next bells and whistles. Though typically you can use the current version of Camtasia for years before having to upgrade, unless you just really have to have the latest and greatest. It you can import other types of video. You can shoot video with your camera or with a video studio and get the files and import them into the Camtasia editor and create all sorts of wonderful effects. You can add music, you can add, you can interleave video together that what's called B-roll. You can bring in, just like the evening news, you can cut the evening news together with this or something similar to it. And it's the easiest video editor to use of this power that exists. There are more powerful video editors, but they're meant for video professionals in the broadcast and film industry, and they take years really to use well, learn to use well. Camtasia you can be using effectively within a day or two of tinkering around with the editor portion, and you can do amazing things with it. And I will see, we had a question about whether we were going to have a Camtasia and a Camtasia session later on, and maybe I'll see if we can add that there does seem to be a little bit of interest. It is a wonderful tool. I'd like to be able to show more of it to you, but if you're interested, if you try these little entry-level tools like Screencast-O-Matic, Snagit, or Zoom, and you want to do more, and you want to be able to edit more effectively and really add educationally useful effects, up to and including quizzes, embedded quizzes, and things like that. Camtasia is a great way to go, and I'd be happy to work with you on that. We had a question here. I have a Camtasia account, but we cannot use it through SDCCD. Well, you may be, Kathy, you may be talking about Camtasia Relay, which was another product that we don't have anymore, that we had to drop because we could no longer, the product we had, they discontinued, and they produced a subscription service to an online hosted product that we've never been able to afford. And this is a standalone, locally installed software package that you download directly from TechSmith, and you would have to buy from them. But as I say, if you get into this, if you become a screencaster par excellence and want to really put that extra level of bling into your screencasts and make them even more exciting, Camtasia is the way to go. But I guarantee you they probably won't really be any more useful to your students. I don't even use Camtasia that much anymore. I hate to admit it. Except for very specific applications, occasionally. Most of my screencasting I do with Snagit, and it's perfectly adequate. Let's see here. Now I want to make sure I've gotten all the questions in the chat tool. How do you get the individual specific student feedback? Good question. In Canvas, I'm not sure I adequately illustrated that, obviously. Let's see, there we go. You just go to your comments box and you paste in the URL for the video and then submit that, and that shows up to the student, and they can just click on that link and go straight to it. Good question. I think maybe I didn't do that at all, which is a bad thing. Good question. And Ashita, you have a question on Zoom. What is that? And thank you so much for attending today. We're pretty much, that's all I had to present, but I'll stay here and answer questions as long as you have them.
Can you hear me, Dave?
So, yes.
Oh, you can hear me?
I'm hearing you. You're breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, I think my microphone not working that well. But my question is, in my last semester, I had 8 chat sessions. In my first 5 or 6 chat sessions under Zoom, it was kicking me out after 25-30 minutes and asking me to upload to a more advanced version, and which I did not do. I came out of it and re-entered.
It probably was kicking you out after 40 minutes, which is the limit on the free Zoom account.
Oh, it could be 40 minutes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But the last 2 sessions, I could continue for 1 hour.
The Confer Zoom accounts, if you get them through CCC Confer, should not do that.
Okay.
Those are what are called Zoom Pro accounts, and they have an unlimited, they have no time limit on a Zoom session. So if you're logging in through Confer Zoom and it's doing that to you, it shouldn't. So you probably want to go to the Confer Zoom website that I showed you. Let me put that up here in the chat tool again.
So I will install the Confer Zoom in my spring semester classes. That's what you're suggesting? I can do that.
I'm just hearing a little bit of your what you're saying, but yeah, if you need to get if you haven't already done so, you need to get an account through a Zoom account through Confer Zoom, and then that problem should go away. If it doesn't, or if you're already using a Confer Zoom account, you would want to go to that site and go to support. And there's your tech support number, or after hours support. You can, I think it's an email support. Oh no, that just takes you to Zoom's support thing there. So I would call CCC Confer Zoom during their operating hours and let them know you're having that problem, and I'm sure they can troubleshoot that for you.
Dave?
I hope that answered your question.
Dave, I have a question.
All righty.
Hi. It's about the, I have the Camtasia Studio. Is that different from Camtasia Relay? Because I think those are two separate systems, aren't they?
Is what Camtasia Relay and what?
Camtasia Studio.
Yeah, Camtasia Studio is the full-blown Camtasia, the one with the editor and all that.
Okay, so because I do have that one. So
Yeah,
that
one you should still be able to use, even if it's an older version.
Okay.
Camtasia Relay, we no longer have access to, unfortunately.
All right, so if I do non-school related things, since I purchased it, I should use Camtasia Studio, not the.
You can't use Camtasia Relay anymore anyway. It's pretty much dead.
Okay.
But it might. I don't know if they've actually taken it offline or not, but it's not really of any use anymore. It's moribund. But certainly the Camtasia Studio you can use for anything, and personal or private. And with the Zoom, I wouldn't worry. The district or the chancellor's office doesn't pay any more for Zoom whether you use it or not. That's immaterial. So if you use it for personal purposes, it's A, no one's ever going to know. B, it's not going to cost the district or the state anything.
Well, the students will know. Oh, okay. I didn't.
Well, but if you were using it with the students, that would be a professional use.
Okay, but it is okay.
So,
but I couldn't want to do anything illegal. So my
Camtasia
Studio is
you're
free.
not going to run into legal questions.
Okay. All right, because I have some non-school related things. So use Camtasia Studio for that, and use the Screencast-O-Matic for school things. Would that be best?
No, I'd use whichever one I liked for either one. Really, there's no limitation.
Good
Use
to
the
see.
one you like.
It's good to see you, and you could be Brad Pitt's father.
I'm sorry?
I said it's good to see you, and you could be Brad Pitt's father.
Maybe great-grandfather. Thank you. You're very sweet. It's nice to see you. And we have another question here from Anthony, I believe. I've created screencasts without closed captioning. Can I go back and upload it to YouTube for its closed captioning capability? Absolutely. I upload stuff all the time to YouTube just to get the captions. It's well worth it. And if you have any questions about how to do that, just contact me and I'll send you the information you need, or work through it with you on a one-on-one Zoom session. You can always contact me at my email address. There it is. And I love to hear from people anytime, especially people who've been in one of my Zoom sessions like this. So please get in touch when you have questions, or you want some information, or just have a comment to make. Feedback is always welcome, positive or negative. And I will hope to hear from a lot of you. Let me see if I've gotten everything in the chat tool here. Good question, Lee. We no longer have Camtasia Relay. Can we integrate an external proctoring tool within Canvas? That all comes down to money. There is one that's available that's even whose cost is somewhat offset by the Community College Foundation in California, but it's still blindingly expensive. And with the state of the budget and so on, I don't know what the realistic possibilities are for us to get that proctoring tool available. It would certainly work fine with Canvas if they did, but right now we're just trying to make sure that we have, well, Canvas is provided for free by the state, and the one thing we're trying to make sure we can get right now is a plagiarism checking tool. Those are ferociously expensive as well, and they're working on that. We have one right now, and they're working on keeping it, but I don't have any details on that for you. I'm sort of out of that loop now, being a retired person. no longer have any impact on that, but I do hope that continues, and I hope eventually they're going to be able to get the proctoring tool. But I will tell you that the best bet for acquiring resources like that is for as many faculty as possible to respectfully request it, with or without pounding on the tabletop or whatever, because that's what gets money spent at the district, particularly if the union gets involved. So I would agitate for that sort of thing, definitely, if I were in your shoes, because an online proctoring tool would be a great benefit for lots of people. And let's see, I need a one-to-one session sometime. Ishita, great. Just email me and we'll set up a mutually convenient time. And that's part of my purview this time. The district will support me doing that. So any of you who want some one-on-one time on Zoom to talk about things that are particular to your interest, please just email me and we'll set up a time to do it. Anything else?
Dave, this is Will Burke.
Hey, Will.
Hey, I think you trained me on no, it was Blackboard a couple years ago.
Ah.
So I emailed you maybe midweek, and I'm teaching Canvas courses, same class basically, but on different campuses, and I'm importing and exporting multiple. But I just really have a quick question about how do I limit my export and import between campuses, or whatever we would call it.
So if you have multiple shells,
yeah,
and you only want to have to add stuff at once,
yeah,
rather than have to do it 3 times or whatever. There are a couple of options for that.
Okay.
One thing you can do is to merge, or what they call cross-list, all 3 shells.
Okay.
So that you're really only using one shell, but all your students have access to that one shell. And if the course is truly, identical among the 3 sections, then you'll just have 3 groups of students in there, but they'll all have access to the same content, the same discussion boards and stuff like that. You can group them if you like, and separate them for discussions and whatnot, or you can just have one big happy family. And you can do that by just calling the faculty hotline number under Canvas Help, and just request that. You just give them the course numbers. You say, I'd like these 3 shells merged and or cross-listed, and here's the primary shell, and I'm going to actually put the content in, or actually keep the content up to date in.
Okay.
And then they'll set that up for you.
Now, can I do that if I already have the shells established?
Unfortunately, I don't think with Canvas, come to think of it, that you can. I wish I
Okay.
knew that originally. I think that has to be done before the beginning of the term.
Okay.
So the next semester, that would be a good thing. In the meantime,
Yeah.
you don't have to upload stuff individually. You can upload to one course and then copy it from that course
Right.
into the other two. Depending on exactly what you're adding, it may be easier to do and quicker to do that than to just add the content to the 3 different sections,
Okay.
or it may not.
Okay.
So it's a little iffy.
Okay.
I'd probably need to look at your course and see what you want to do, and then we can try to decide what's going to be easier. If you want to email me and set up a time to do that, I'd be delighted to.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. This is really helpful today.
And I will, how do we access the recording? As soon as I get the recording up on YouTube, I have your email addresses in the chat tool. If I don't, please put them in there right now, if you wouldn't mind. Just your name and your email. And I will send an email out to everybody on how to find this one and recent ones, other recent ones we've done as well. There's Kathy. All right. Thank you, Kathy, for the email. All righty. Anything else? I'll answer questions as long as you got them. All righty. Not hearing anything else or seeing anything else in the chat tool, I'll wish you all a wonderful Friday and a wonderful weekend. And I hope to see you again in one of these sessions again soon. Remember, we've got these stretching all the way into May, about 1 or 2 a week, all sorts of different topics. And if there's something that we're not covering that you'd like to see done, let me know. Just email me and we'll consider adding that. I've got a few slots where I can add things in. I'm already thinking about adding a Camtasia session because we've had some big interest expressed in that. So that would be fun for me too. But anything else you'd like, please let me know. And thanks so much for coming today. Enjoyed it. Bye-bye.